Okay, I'll call the first couple people, just so that the people who are not number one, but maybe 2 and 3 can start queuing up. So we will start off with Keaton Gray, and on deck will be Chris Lauridsen and Caroline Conselman. And I'm sorry in advance for any names I'm not getting right. But first up, Keaton Gray, please.
Is this going to start automatically? Okay. All right. Hello, City Council. My name is Keaton Gray. I am a licensed social worker, a full-time mental health therapist here in Boulder. On November 8th, Coloradans will vote on Proposition 122, which would create a state-regulated access model to make it legal for people to receive psychedelic-assisted treatment services at, quote, licensed healing centers and approved healthcare locations. So I am very concerned about this initiative, and I ask Boulder City Council to lead the way in restorative justice to decriminalize the use of psychedelic medicines for all adults over age 21 in this city. So psychedelics have been categorized as a Schedule I drug since 1970, and the war on drugs has wreaked havoc and trauma on communities who are disproportionately, right, Black, Indigenous, people of color. So a state-regulated model for licensed professionals like myself to facilitate this treatment without allowing decriminalized usage for all would continue to enable these racist-based dangers. This treatment is predicted to cost an individual around $3,000, and companies are already capitalizing and patenting psychedelics in preparation of its regulation. So humans have been using entheogenic plants with intention for healing since prehistoric times, and healing is our birthright. Punishing this has been a deep trauma for our country. So I ask that Boulder City Council decriminalize the personal use of entheogenic plants and fungi for those over the age of 21. Data shows minimal public health and safety risks in cities that have already done this. So please, City Council, do not let companies and licensed professionals like myself capitalize these medicines without allowing equitable and safe access for all adults. I ask Boulder City Council to lead the way in decriminalizing natural medicines for all and uphold values of solidarity, mutual aid, justice, and equity for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Keaton. Next up is Chris Lauridsen, and then Caroline Conselman and Holly Carlson.
Hi, my name is Chris Lauridsen. I'm a fellow Boulder resident. I attend the University of Colorado Boulder as a graduate student, and I also completed my undergraduate studies here. I'm speaking today also on behalf of the effort to make psychedelic medicines fully decriminalized here in Boulder. I'd like to share my perspective as to why this issue is of high importance. On campus, I'm fortunate to serve as the co-president of the Psychedelic Club. Our club has a history of being a safe space for individuals in our community to share the experience that they have had with psychedelic medicines without fear. We have consistently heard, contrary to bad faith depictions, of dangerous sensation-seeking or escapism, instead powerful personal accounts of overcoming trauma and addiction, releasing emotions previously stuck, perpetuating illnesses in the body, gaining powerful personal insight and direction, and reclaiming a productive engagement with life. I have had other experiences which inform me about the importance of us taking this action. In the inpatient psychiatric unit at Boulder Community Hospital, in my time as a mental health worker, I have seen up close the plight of individuals in our community who are tremendously suffering and for whom any measure to address mental health concerns could be life-changing. This change is already taking place. We must act now. We must be proactive and not reactive, and we must use compassion to guide our decision. I have a tremendous love for our community in Boulder. We must preserve the strength of our home through being adaptive to this current change. Let me be clear, we must change our policy to completely end the prohibition of our nature, to be in relationship with nature and its medicines, with the unwavering condition that our response promote justice and equity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris. Next up, Caroline, then Holly Carlson and Katie Moore.
Hi, my name is Dr. Caroline Conselman. I'm an associate teaching professor of anthropology at CU Boulder. I have 25 years of research experience on the origins and impacts of the U.S. war on drugs, both domestically and internationally. I teach and publish and run workshops on these topics, and I organize the Cannabis and Psychedelic Symposium that takes place every spring at CU, collaborating with student leaders and engaged community members. I'm also the mother of an 8th grader at Manhattan Middle School, and so this issue is personal for me as well. I want to make 3 key points in favor of decriminalization of entheogenic plants and fungi from an academic perspective. Drug prohibition policies in the U.S. were rooted in racism against indigenous peoples, immigrant communities, and African Americans, and they relied on punitive methods of social control. The results were predictable: decimated working class and inner-city neighborhoods, police corruption and racial profiling, prisons filled with primarily black and brown people, violence in our communities, and no net reduction in drug use, addiction, or overdose deaths. Ending prohibition provides the opportunity to re-engage democracy and prioritize compassion and meaningful public education with a focus on social and racial justice. Decriminalizing entheogenic plants and fungi for innovative psychedelic therapies and ceremonial uses will increase community safety, reduce racist policing, bolster our local economy, show respect for ancient indigenous knowledge, honor interdisciplinary scientific research, and prevent drug abuse and overdose deaths, especially among our youth. The City of Boulder has the opportunity to be on the right side of history and set an example for what harm reduction policies can look like. After all, prohibition laws have caused far more harm than psychedelics ever have or could. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Caroline. Holly Carlson, then Katie Moore and Sherry Hack. Donovan Smith, Ari Al, and then Travis Hugh Cully.
Many of you have heard my story before, but I'll be sharing it again to advocate for the decriminalization of psychedelics in Boulder. I grew up in a house where my queerness wasn't celebrated but shamed because of religion. I hid and I hated who I was. I internalized the shame, and by my young adulthood, my life was filled with depression, self-harm, suicide attempts, anxiety, substance abuse, and ultimately a methamphetamine addiction. When I came out and left the church at 21 years old, I'm 27 now, my entire worldview was shattered. Without religion, what does life mean? Why am I here? I was thrown into the wild to fend for myself. I turned to existential philosophy, cosmology, Eastern religions, and sociology for answers, but I only found more questions. I was really lost. It wasn't until my first psychedelic experience in 2017 that I began my very messy healing journey. Through psychedelics, I've learned to embrace the existentialism by reframing it as a curiosity for life, the vastness of the cosmos, and connection. Psychedelics continue to change myself. It has taken years of painful lessons, therapy, and the best support system that a human could ask for in order to stay alive in this body. But integral to that healing over the last year in particular has been microdosing psilocybin mushrooms. They have helped me create space between negative thinking and what is actually true about who I am, love and be proud of my inner child and most authentic self, heal from trauma, and find real recovery from addiction. Most recently, they helped me get back on track with recovery after a relapse. Mushrooms are a beautiful tool, but they don't make me invincible from my humanness, and I still have bad days and weeks, but recovery is progress, not perfection. And mushrooms have taught me about hope and given me the strength to ask for help when I need it. I'm very grateful. My hope is that anyone and everyone will soon be able to take part in these plant healing practices and feel empowered to do so without fearing the law. I am just one person on a rock falling through space, trying to stay clean, grounded, and in community with people who love me, and I firmly believe that such medicines like psilocybin can help other people in Boulder find healing like I have and still am. Thank you.
Thanks, Donovan. I'm sorry you didn't get the message that you're fabulous in your childhood, but glad you're into some recovery now. Next, Ari, then Travis Hugh Cully, and Valerie Love.
Okay. I want to thank Boulder City Council for your time and consideration. My name is Dr. Ari All. I am a physician and psychiatrist working in Boulder, Colorado. I'm here to talk about decriminalization of psychedelics. In the past 10 years, research has shown that psychedelics can have profound effects on anxiety, depression, and trauma. A single dose of psilocybin has much higher remission rates for depression than the traditional antidepressants we currently use in psychiatry. In that same line, MDMA has been shown to have the highest efficacy of trauma and PTSD of any treatment tried so far. As for safety, studies have shown that in terms of harm to society and harm to the person taking the drug, alcohol, heroin, and cocaine cause the most harm, while MDMA, LSD, and psilocybin have the least harm of any illicit drug. A recent study from the Journal of Psychopharmacology showed that those who use psychedelics are actually less likely to commit a crime than the general population. Denver has decriminalized psilocybin, and a review of Denver City Council reported decriminalizing psilocybin mushrooms in the city and county of Denver has not since created any significant public health or public safety issue in the city. As for addiction, studies have shown that psychedelics have anti-addictive properties and can be used to treat diseases such as alcohol addiction. For instance, a study recently published in JAMA Psychiatry showed that after a single dose of psilocybin, patients who abuse alcohol had less binge drinking days over the following 32 weeks. Furthermore, due to the high tolerance that occurs immediately after taking psychedelics, traditional psychedelics such as LSD and psilocybin are extremely hard, if not impossible, to use every day, thus lowering the risk of abuse. I ask that Boulder City Council make decriminalization of psychedelics a priority in order to end arrests and match our policy with the prevailing science. Thank you for your time.
Next is Clara Elizabeth, Valerie Beltran, and Bridget Mars.
Hello, everyone. My name is Clara Elizabeth. I am a third-year PhD student here at CU in cognitive psychology, and I've done a little bit of math modeling work using machine learning tools and other mathematics to model the cognitive effects of psychedelics. I am also a survivor of childhood trauma. I developed severe PTSD in high school to the point where if someone just said a certain word that was triggering to me, I would go home and cry for 3 days having flashbacks. So I could tell you today how in undergrad, the use of a couple psychedelics, including LSD, MDMA, and psilocybin mushrooms, saved my life. But instead, I'm going to tell you about how the illegalization of psychedelics, specifically LSD, almost ended my life. So consider my words that you hear today as the words of a ghost, because I should not be speaking to you, and I am incredibly grateful that I can. When LSD was made illegal, it was based upon the chemical structure. So what happens when you draw a line in the sand is that the people on the bad side don't stop doing the thing. They just get around the law, whether that's good or bad. And so people changed a little bit of the chemical structure, got a little bit farther away from LSD, but then that was made illegal. And then they changed it again, and that was outlawed. And it kept going and going and going. There were a couple other historical things too, including a man named Alexander Shulgin, who created a bunch of these chemicals as well. But specifically, it is this getting around the law process that created all these designer drugs. So if you look at some studies that were done where people took samples of street LSD before the ban of it, it was generally okay. I mean, it wasn't the best. You should still test it. Like, if 15% of it might be adulterated with PCP or amphetamine. But nowadays, if you look at it, there are hundreds of research chemicals.
Sorry, your time is up. I hope you have our email address and can email us the rest of your testimony. Thank you. Next up, Valerie Beltran, Bridget Mars, and Malik S. Fear.
Hello, my name is Valerie Beltran. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I specialize in trauma, and I did a year-long psychedelic-assisted therapy training program at the California Institute of Integral Studies in San Francisco. I'm also a supervisor at a ketamine-assisted therapy clinic where ketamine is legal, and I also provide integration and preparation sessions for veterans for a nonprofit that allows the veterans to travel to countries where psychedelic-assisted therapy is already legal. And in this work, I have seen incredible changes in people who have been utterly hopeless. You've heard from a lot of my colleagues here tonight, my friends here tonight, who are sharing the incredible changes that they've experienced in themselves. And I'd like to paint a little bit of a picture of some of the things that I've seen. I've seen people who have been suicidal, made multiple suicide attempts, who have had absolutely no hope for life, who have been completely through every single type of therapy you could possibly imagine, and who have gone through just one or sometimes two sessions of a psychedelic-assisted therapy, and who no longer even meet the criteria for PTSD anymore. To be able to have these kinds of opportunities is incredible, and that's why I'm a huge proponent of legalizing and medicalizing the use of psychedelic-assisted therapy. And to begin, I think we need to decriminalize so that nobody's going to jail for these substances. I also want to make a distinction of how different these entheogens are from other substances like meth or other things that we're mentioning, and how much healing potential there can be. Especially in other countries where they're already legalized, drug crime has been reduced, crime in general has been reduced because resources are able to be reallocated to harm reduction, to therapy, and so that people are actually getting healing and support. So I'm here to speak to, wait, was that my last point? Wait, one sec. Yes, that's it, just to decriminalize the use of psychedelics. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Kudos to you for getting through almost the whole thing without having to look. That's amazing. Okay, next we have Bridget Mars.
Hello, I'm Brigitte Mars. I'm the author of 14 books on natural medicine. I've taught at herbal medicine at Naropa University for 40 years. I'm also a mother and grandmother of 3 teenagers. I'm here to speak on the behalf of decriminalizing psychedelics. I believe these substances to be so much safer than the drugs that are currently marketed to people. I do believe when used in a safe setting, they can be transformational. Many respectable people are using them. Naropa has a Department of Psychedelic Studies. This is going to be the medicine of the future, and the people that are learning about this should not be criminals. The people that are going to be using these medicines are being transformed. In my own work, I've seen that these substances can help people overcome addiction because there can be the opportunity for an epiphany, how we are all connected, how we are children of the divine. I've seen this help people with addiction, with post-traumatic stress, fear of death. The creativity that can come from these experiences is unsurpassed when we think about the music that came out of the 60s, but the possibility of truth, beauty, goodness. We know that our planet is in peril. We so need something that's going to wake people up so we can be better stewards of this planet, find ways that we can coexist together without creating warfare. I do believe that this is an opportunity for evolution for our planet. I do believe that psychedelics can transform the world when we think of things that came out of the earlier psychedelic revolution that are still with us today, things like yoga, meditation, organic farming, natural childbirth, alternative education. These things have all been infiltrated into our society for the good and the natural foods movement. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brigitte. Next we have Malik Asfir, Ramsey Abueta, and Patrick Murphy.
My name is Malik. I migrated from the Middle East to the U.S. at age 19 with a death sentence and life-altering
Can you lean into the mic a bit? I'm getting the waves
Yes.
from the back.
Okay.
Thank you, back row.
From years in solitary confinement to multiple attempts to end my life, arriving to the U.S. not knowing anyone, speaking the language, or having money, I welcomed the unwelcoming street and called them home for 3 months. Although I built a life beyond that and lived the American dream from the white picket fence to the blue passport, I was never able to escape the constant fear and pain. My mind was imprisoned by the shackles of my past until psychedelic came into my life. Since then, I've been able to close my eyes and not be haunted by the faces of those that raped me, not hear the scream of those being tortured, not smell the dry blood on the walls, and not feel the pain in every cell of my body. I've traveled a long, long way to be here. To paint you a picture in which people like me can have access to this medicine, not only because we as a human deserve it, to be frank, we earned it, but because it's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Great. Great jazz hands. Thank you so much for that, Malik, and glad you're here. Ramsey Abueta, Patrick Murphy, and then Del Jolly will be our last, I think, in chambers open commenter.
Greetings, Boulder City Council. It feels good to be finally speaking to you in the flesh. Most of you know me by now, and I'm grateful to have formed personal relationships with many of you. But for the sake of the record, I'll introduce myself. My name is Ramzi Aboueda. I have a degree in neuroscience. I've worked in clinical research, and I'm a community organizer and a drug policy reform activist. I'm here to speak to what so many have already spoken on today, which is the necessity for Boulder to join 15 cities across the US in decriminalizing psychedelics and entheogenic substances. The powerful testimonies that we've heard today speak for themselves. For 10 months, we've been having members of our local community, your constituents, putting themselves out on a limb and basically incriminating themselves to tell their stories of how psychedelics have impacted their lives. It's evident that there's something deeply powerful and profound behind these stories. This is not a small or niche community. This community is large and abundant and spans multiple domains of our society and culture, representing a consilience of the neuroscience community, the medical and therapy community, the university research community, the art and music community, the indigenous community, and so much more. Very rarely does something inspire such a lively and vivacious movement. Boulder has always been at the cutting edge of health, wellness, and modern living. Psychedelics have passed every test of being safe and effective modalities for mental health, spiritual transformation, profound inner work, and community building. When I first started working in the clinical research industry and got certified in medical ethics, a crucial principle we learned about was the principle of beneficence, which states that if we know if something is good and we willingly keep it from people, we are doing something unethical. The criminalization of psychedelics is a crime against humanity, and obstinance or inaction on ending the criminalization is complicity. Thank you.
Hello, thank you guys for having me. I am a Colorado native, born here in Boulder County resident for 10 years, father of 3 wonderful children, and just had my 15-year anniversary with my wife. I'm the director of a research nonprofit called Unlimited Sciences. We've been working with Johns Hopkins University for the last 3 years on how the community uses psilocybin. Psychedelics have been shown to help improve with so many ailments such as obsessive compulsive disorder, anxiety, eating disorders, addiction, pain, and even stuttering. Johns Hopkins has raised $17 million for their university wing, and multiple other universities are following suit. This is a movement that is moving forward. 15 cities have already decriminalized psychedelics. Boulder needs to be next. I want you to take a second to remember back to when you were a little kid. Things were so bright and exciting, and you felt like the world was your oyster, and you were just meant for so much more. At least I did, and now I do. And while a lot of that has been lost over time, each of you haven't lost all of that, and that's why I think that you're here. You're making change in your community, serving your community as city council members. The community here is speaking tonight. Psychedelics have brought so much joy and hope back to me personally. And you have the ability to make massive change in our community, locally. Please, I beg you to take action as soon as possible to decriminalize, which is our right to take our cognitive liberty back. Thank you guys for your time.
Thanks so much.